Good morning, everyone, on this snowy, cold morning. I hope that you're all snuggled down, safe in your beds. Maybe dances of sugar plums are not in your heads, but I hope at least you have something warm to drink and are comfortable. I understand that you've had an awful lot of snow, which is unusual. I hope you'll be able to get out and enjoy it. We are about to start. Please make sure that you are muted. We would love to see your faces. And let us begin the service with our land acknowledgement.
We place this basket of black oak acorns on our altar in acknowledgement of the indigenous people of this area, the Nisenan, who never ceded, never yielded their land.
I am the Reverend Janet Ani, the sabbatical minister holding the place of Reverend Kevin Tarsa for this Unitarian Universalist community, the mountains in Grass Valley. Whoever you are, whatever your skin color, whatever your gender identification or sexual preference, whatever your cultural identity, economic status, physical or mental abilities, or any other identity that keeps you from revealing your whole self, you are welcome to make a home in this time and space. In solidarity with the indigenous peoples across the United States, I acknowledge the land on which I make my home is the home of the Monacan Indian Nation, one of the few Native American groups still residing in their ancestral homeland of 10,000 years. They are recognized as one of the 7 indigenous tribes of the state of Virginia. This morning is the last Sunday we'll be highlighting our February theme of love. Tina Turner's rendition of the song, What's Love Got to Do with It, doesn't explicitly define it, but it's pretty clear that she's embittered by a relationship gone sour. So far as I know, the relationship between Unitarian Universalists and their Association of Congregations is more or less intact. So today I want to show that love has everything to do with it. It being an idea held within an institution. I'm going to weave the UUA's initiative on reimagining our 7 principles as expressed by the UUA's Article 2 Commission and the very tangible expression of love for the UU community of the mountains through your financial support. And now, with all of this, let us enter into worship with gladness in our hearts.
The chalice lighting is by Amy Carroll Webb. We light this flame for the art of sacred unknowing, humbled by all that we cannot fathom in this time. We come into the presence of what we do know, perhaps the only thing we can ever know, that love is now and forever the only answer to everything and everyone in every moment.
This would be the time to light your home chalices as we sing together our gathering song, when our heart is in a holy place.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our stories from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
As we end this month's theme of love, it is my pleasure to share with you a memento, which to me represents love and much more. This little lady was purchased in Carolina in 1982 on what was my mother's first trip to the South. She was given to me by my mom upon her return. Whenever I see it, I see love. I feel love. I've cherished it for years, and especially so since Mom passed. I share this today because it exemplifies my love for her and the unconditional and overflowing love she had for me, my brothers and sisters, and her friends and family. Mom was raised in Bakersfield, the youngest child born into a very large family. My grandmother was a housemaker, and my grandfather was a maintenance worker. They were by no means wealthy or even middle class. Everyone was expected to contribute in such a large household. So at the age of 12, my mother joined her older brothers and sisters to pick cotton in the fields of the Central Valley. She talked about the scorching heat, her calloused fingers bleeding and sore from picking. Still, Mom worked in those fields every summer and most Saturdays, never Sunday because that was church. She worked in those fields until she graduated from high school. In those cotton fields, she developed a work ethic that served her well throughout her career, one that I try to emulate. After Mom graduated, she worked in the mental health field. She worked for UCLA Neuropsychiatric Institute for over 28 years. She loved her job, especially when she was working with children, which were her primary patients. As a fourth grader, fifth grader, I can recall being a little jealous when she would come home and she would gush about her work kids, and how much and what they were doing and how they were doing. And you could see in her eyes that she was just in love with them. And that she was. She advocated for those young kids. She supported them. She loved them like they were on her own. And that was who she was. She cared very deeply. She had a great sense of justice, of what is right and what is wrong. And she wasn't afraid to speak up or to step out. She took me to my very first protest when I was barely maybe 7 or 8 years old. So she introduced me to the notion that we have a responsibility to help those around us and to contribute to a better life for everyone. And she lived that life. And that is what she taught me. That is one of the legacies that she gave me. She was a single mother. She worked hard. She sacrificed a lot. She put us first at all times, sacrificing so that we could do, so that we could be, so that we could have. And so when she was able in her elder years to travel, something that she had wanted to do for so long, but she couldn't afford it, she started to travel. And she picked this little girl up in one of her first travels. She also went to Taiwan, she went to Hawaii, she went to Europe. And she instilled in me that same love and appreciation for travel. So not only the worth ethic, the compassion that she has for people, her persistence, her commitment to her friends and her family, those are things. When I look at this little girl, I see the love and I feel the love. And she'll always be a treasured part of my life.
It is that time of year again, the time when we renew our pledge to our UU community. I've been serving on the stewardship team for the past 6 years, and this year will be my 3rd year as chairperson. Every year, the stewardship team diligently works to have a theme, word, or phrase to underscore the importance and the necessity of pledging. This theme appears in our annual letter that highlights the joys and accomplishments that come from your generous giving. Last year, And the River Keeps Flowing, and the previous year, Life Calls Us On, were meant to encourage us through an unusual period of isolation. This year, our theme is Mosaic. A mosaic is a beautiful work of art created by many small pieces. UUCM is a mosaic made up of many people and made beautiful by their service, compassion, and generosity. If we were in our sanctuary, I would ask you to turn to your right and you would see a large mosaic in progress. The art and aesthetics team enthusiastically joined the project, and they hung the frame of our mosaic. On a background of our UU colors, you would see a small hexagonal shapes that will be filled with photos in the coming weeks. We began with a heartwarming photo of Kevin's ordination. There's one of the blessing of the animals. And if you look closely, you can see Allison's tortoise. There's one of our Christmas service, and there's one of our Anita. Please send us your pictures to add to the UUCM mosaic. It'll be fun for those of us who have been here for many years to reminisce, and it will give our newer members insight to all that we've been. Each picture represents some part of our community. The completed work will be a pictorial depiction of our values, our joys, our spirit, and our comfort in each other. Finally, the frame around our mosaic says, pledges, which make all of this possible. Look for your pledge letter and the form in your mail by the 2nd week of March. The front of the form is about your pledge. The back is our covenant of right relations. Sign once in the front for both. Most importantly, please mail it in a timely manner. Carol Ritchie will use these 2023-24 pledges to build our budget for the next church year. She must have all the pledges in by April 9th. Finally, we hope the UUCM mosaic shows how each of you contributes to make this a special community. And send your pictures to Robin Hart. Now I'd like you to join me in a mosaic of words. I will call out my words, and the words you may say in response will appear on your screen. To worship means to consider that which has worth. Today we consider with gratitude the many gifts of this community.
The opportunity to be affirmed in who we are and to offer that affirmation to others.
The chance to stand up together to help remake the world in the ideal of justice.
The freedom to choose one's own path to truth and to learn from the travelogues of others.
Regular reminders that we must see our world through the lens of love.
And the aspiration to consider all life as precious. For if all of it is made of stardust, how can it not be wondrous?
So this morning, let's welcome all these gifts with gratitude, for they have been paid for with many currencies.
The lives of the martyrs who died so that we can be free is our religion.
The sweat of those who persisted in justice's name against hostility and adversity.
The tears of those who struggled to build better lives for those in this life.
The laughter and joy of those giddy with the embrace of community.
The dollars and cents of those who gave what they could and then stretched a little more.
So today, we consider with gratitude and humility what it means to pay forward what has been paid forward for us.
Many of us carry the transitions of our lives in our hearts and minds where they stay unexpressed. In order to heal from sorrow, lessen anxiety from concerns, and fully celebrate joys, we need to acknowledge and share them to release them from our depths to the light of acknowledgement and even articulation. This is the time to do that. Let us remember the challenges of our country and its leaders. May we send thoughts of hope for discernment and courage in the face of ambition and fear. Specifically, let us keep in our hearts the people impacted by the war between Russia and Ukraine, and the people who have lost everything in the earthquake in Syria and Turkey. Let us remember those who have yet to receive relief and those who are grieving for the death of those who love. We invite you to use the chat to express a joy, concern, a care, or a sorrow that you carry in your heart this morning.
And we're thinking of those who are unsheltered. A lot of us are enjoying the snow. I'm trying to find my notes. And we're thinking of Beth's father-in-law, who is at the end of his life.
Please join me in opening our hearts and minds to join in the cosmic consciousness of which we are all a part. Oh God, we pray not to request your presence, but to call ourselves into it. For the sustaining peace, the wisdom, the silence are nearer than breath. You are the ground of being, the mover, the first, and the place of rest. Oh, love, hear our prayers. For the wounded, may there be comfort. Let the weary be held in your hands. May the joy of the thankful be overflowing. Let none be lonely in our community, and may we tread gently upon this earth.
Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. Will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song.
All right. The reading this morning is from a piece entitled Faith and Beliefs by Jackie Clement. It's from a book called Voices from the Margins. Jackie says, "Last summer, my husband John and I were canoeing in New Hampshire. At the end of a trip around the lake, I climbed out of the canoe first, had 1 foot in the lake and 1 foot in the canoe. That's when things went wrong. While taking my foot out of the canoe, I caught my heel on the edge. Losing my balance, I instinctively reached for the most solid thing within my grasp, the canoe. There are times when grabbing onto what appears most solid and stable is exactly the wrong thing to do. When I resurfaced, I saw my husband sitting in 1.5 feet of water, fishing for his glasses on the lake bottom. In my attempt to save myself, I took an innocent bystander down as well." I tell this story not to demonstrate my lack of boating expertise, but to say that I understand the emotional impetus to grab onto what seems most stable and solid when the world is tipping us off our feet. In religious terms, we might say we are driven to hold ever more tightly to our beliefs when we are under stress. Like grabbing a canoe for stability, depending on belief to keep us from going under, is to grasp the wrong thing. It is not our belief that we need to hold on to, but our faith. Though the two are often taken to mean the same thing, there is a subtle and critical difference. Faith is a deep-seated confidence, vital to our very existence. Belief is only what we think is true, though we wouldn't stake our lives on it. Faith leaves room for mystery. Belief does not. As Albert Einstein wrote in his personal credo, the most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mysterious. Sometimes what seems most solid and stable is only illusion of stability. Things that appear more ethereal, that may seem to be the toughest to grasp, are in face the most stable and secure. Love, faith, and community may seem to be intangible ideals, but if nurtured, they can serve as the very bedrock of our lives. Beliefs can fall away, but the things that seem more insubstantial, perhaps because they can be the hardest to come by, have the greatest worth and provide the steadiest base. Since my retirement from full-time ministry several years ago, I have not paid much attention to the UUA's initiatives and the discussions of the Eighth Principle and the Article 2 Commission. So the thoughts I want to share with you today are heavily influenced by conversations with my still active colleagues, especially the Reverend Paul Oakley and the Reverend Christine Dance, and of course my catch-up readings on these issues. Like most religions, Unitarian Universalism is, above all, an idea. In Judaism, the idea was there was one God. In Islam, the central idea is submission to the will of God. In Christianity, the idea put love above the law. Everything that flows and differentiates one religion from another flows from that central idea. These ideas are like a single flame. A single flame. Unitarian Universalism is a spark that flew from Christianity and all the other monotheistic sparks. It grew into a flame with the ideas shaped by transcendentalism and humanism. Anyone who has lit a match or flicked a bic knows that flames dissipate without a container. In our tradition, that container is the chalice. It holds the flame of our free religion and keeps it from disappearing. Or stated differently, our institutions, Our churches, communities, congregations, societies, fellowships, and our association of congregations hold our Unitarian Universalist values. Without these institutions, our values, and especially our unique articulation of those values, well, they dissipate. Foundational to any institution are rules by which they plan to govern their members and their affairs. In other words, bylaws. So, what's love got to do with bylaws? Well, it turns out lots. We Unitarian Universalists are held together by our covenant. That covenant is expressed in the language that we use. When the Unitarians and the Universalists merged in 1961, it was written into our bylaws that our principles should be revised every 15 years. And so they were, for a while. But the last time they changed was in 1967. That's 35 years ago, a little longer than the 15 mandated. It seems that our living tradition was very busy living into the challenges of the 21st century. In 2020, the UUA decided it was time for us to do a review and make some changes so that we are living into the Unitarian Universalism of the future. A Unitarian Universalism that holds us in times of great need and ethical, moral, and spiritual crises. The UUA board of our convened a study commission, based its charge on this framing. It says, the new principles and purposes should guide us in the transformation of ourselves, our communities, and our faith into active networks of collective care, restoration, and justice. The principles and purposes you will prepare should be a living document that challenges Unitarian Universalists to place the liberation in all its dimensions, of all, at the center of our lives. Our commitment to anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multiculturalism is love in action and should be centered in any revision of Article 2. Finally, the principles and purposes should lead us into the second quarter of the 21st century, while honoring the historic roots of our liberal and progressive faith. The UUA's Commission's version of the proposed Article 2 is available online. Just Google UUA Article 2. You will find more information than you thought you needed. At our 2023 General Assembly this summer in Pittsburgh, we will vote to accept or reject this version. In order for it to be accepted, it needs a simple majority vote. If accepted, there will be a year of further study, some final edits, and a final vote at the 2024 General Assembly. At that point, it will need a 2/3 majority to be adopted as the new Article 2 of the UUA bylaws. What's different in the draft proposed words? Well, you will not see the concept of principles in the new wording, but values. Unitarian Universalism is a religion based on shared values. But our current wording does not name values explicitly. Our current wording does not name values explicitly, while the proposed draft wording names 6 specific values with corresponding actions to be taken. It centers love as the underlying core value. None of these values are numbered like the principles. The image is circular. None is more important than the other. Each value is expressed in 3 different levels. First, a word, then a sentence to fill it out, and then a covenantal sentence that calls us to actions. I'm going to save you the research and read you our values, all centered around the core values of love. The word is interdependence. We honor the independent web of all existence. We covenant to cherish Earth and all being by creating and nurturing relationships of care and respect. With humility and reverence, we acknowledge our place in the great web of life, and we work to repair harm and damaged relationships. There's our call to action. We work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Next value, another value, pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Justice. We work to be a diverse, multicultural, beloved community where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions. Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Where our current Article 2 joins us in covenant to affirm and promote 7 principles and provide each other mutual trust and support, this proposed revision calls us to more specific action. To recap, we covenant to support and assist each other in engaging our ministries. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression within individuals and our institutions. We covenant to freely share our faith, presence, and resources. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. We covenant to learn from one another and openly explore the depth and the breadth of our many wisdoms. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain a fully inclusive and accessible community of communities. We covenant to care and respect the earth and all beings by fostering relationships of mutuality. Those are the proposed principles. So, what about the sources? The current article names 6 religious, spiritual, scientific, and philosophical resources that inform our spirituality. The proposed revision makes a much simpler statement that does not try to name everything that serves us as a resource, but claims for that role our humanity in all its ways of learning, knowing, understanding, and expression. The new sources statement reads, as Unitarian Universalists, we use and are inspired by sacred and secular understandings that help us live into our values. We respect the histories, contexts, and cultures in which they were created and are currently practiced. So there you have it. It would be naive to think that there is general acceptance of the proposed revision to Article 2. We are, after all, Unitarian Universalists who are willing and able to air their differences of opinion, as it should be. Those who support the proposed Article 2 suggest that opponents are too nostalgic, perhaps, about specific wordings they have grown accustomed to. Other opponents may believe that the proposed wording missed an important understanding of how our faith tradition actually works. To explore these concerns, you can Google Fifth Principle Project, and there are others. There is also concern that the Eighth Principle initiative have been subsumed by the Article 2 discussion. I understand that UUCM has been heavily engaged in discussing the Eighth Principle. The feeling of those that I've talked with argue that the spirit of the Eighth Principle is embedded throughout Article 2, covenantal statements. Paula Cole-Jones, a main instigator of the Eighth Principle, serves on the commission. But I have not spoken to members of BLUU and or Drum or Trust, UU Trust. I plan to hear their reaction to Article 2. What I do know is that congregations who have been engaged with consideration of the Eighth Principle, that would be you, are encouraged to continue studying systemic racism and its impact within and without Unitarian Universalism. What's love got to do with it? Everything. Love has everything to do with the bylaws of our Unitarian Universalist institutions. Our values dictate how, as individuals, we live. So these are not just words. They are not only reflect where we stand now, but more importantly, they shine a light to where our highest aspirations are. They guide our thoughts, our actions, and how we want to be in community. It gives us a framework to be accountable to ourselves, to each other, and to our local and national institutions. These words are the chalice that holds the flame of our free religion. Love also has everything to do with the Unitarian Universalist community of the mountains. As we begin the pledge season theme, Mosaic, it is appropriate to highlight the value of generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. During the next 6 weeks or so, you will be asked to pledge a portion of your financial resources to sustain and nourish this vibrant community. I encourage you to do so. You have a life-giving message of hope and joy and a creative energy that not only burns within this community, but radiates out into the larger community. Who knows where the sparks from this UUCM flame will land? What we do know is that love has everything to do with it. Love invites us to partner with our institutions in an ever-changing dance of co-creation. Will we sit this out? Or will we pledge our minds, our hearts, and our resources to the adventure and dance into the future? May it be so. Amen.
The offering collected each week is a beautiful reminder of the love of our community, how individual contributions combine into something more than the sum of its parts, how by working together, combining our talents, treasure, and time, we strengthen our ability to fulfill our mission. 25% of what is collected in the baskets and 100% of what is placed into the white envelopes will be shared with a local nonprofit. This month, our Share the Plate partner is Community Beyond Violence, whose mission is to offer resources for building healthy relationships and to work with community partners to provide services for healing the effects of interpersonal violence.
Your generosity remains essential to our ability to sustain the work of our community. There are several ways to contribute. You may text an amount to 833-579-0483, give via our website at uugrassvalley.org, via PayPal at paypal.me/UUCM, or mail to UUCM 246 South Church Street, Grass Valley, California, 95945. Thank you.
We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the birds, they tell us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us. We're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as a flower raises its face to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the sky, it tells us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us. We're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as the children raise all their faces to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the seas, they tell us. We're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as the flower raises its face to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love.
Thank you so much for your generosity. We uplift and dedicate these gifts to the vision of a world where love does not hurt, but heals.
I want to highlight Carol Fulkerson and Siobhan for their extraordinary work in putting together this slide packet, and for Bob Miller handling the AV. This whole team pivoted with very little notice, produced the service this morning. Thank you. Thank you all. Please sing together at home our closing song, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way the road from greed to giving, love will guide us through the hard night. You are like no other being. What you can give, no other can give to the future of our precious children, to the future of the world where we live. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
In the end, it won't matter how much we have, but how generously we have given. It won't matter how much we know, but rather how well we live. And it won't matter how much we believe, but how deeply we love, as we carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
My life flows on in endless song above Earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far off hymn that hails a new creation.
No storm can shake my inmost heart, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
While though the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. sing